Share the link, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It'll take a few seconds more.
You can just put it in the chat.
Yes.
Okay. So can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Great. So welcome all of you to the first of the knowledge share series from HRPros. So today's topic is about business growth accelerator. We will be talking about what are the growth pillars that you can focus upon as entrepreneurs to ensure that you accelerate your business growth. So, CK, you want to start off? Okay. Just give me a moment, please. Yeah. CK, up to you.
Yeah, so I think we're 15 minutes past 6. Are we ready?
CK, one sec. Before we start, I'll paste the YouTube live link on the chat box for everyone so that participants can further share within their network and invite others also. And we set the ball rolling. Over to you, CK.
Just give me
a minute,
yeah, so we'll just put this up in the chat also.
Okay, is it on full screen?
Just give me a moment, please. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for taking time on a Saturday evening, right? I hope you can hear me clearly. Right, so Neetu and myself would be sort of taking you through this entire session so that you get a flavor in terms of what we're going to talk about. And also, all of you have obviously seen the topic of the discussion today and what we're going to be covering. So this session is predominantly, meant for entrepreneurs. It has been customized to entrepreneurs, whether you're a solopreneur, whether you're a startup, whether you're early stage, whether you're growth phase, whether you're in manufacturing, IT, services, frankly, it doesn't matter. And that's what our experience shows, that, a business is a business, right? So whatever your business, whether you have a design studio, or whether you're into pest control, or whether you're into manufacturing, you are in a marketplace and you got to compete in that marketplace and succeed in that marketplace. So that really is what this whole thing is all about, right? But since HRPros is new to many of you, we thought we'll just use the first few minutes to give a quick run through in terms of what is HRPros, right? HRPros is a collective community of like-minded professionals. We came together in 2017, 5 years now, right? So we've been gradually building up our community, and what we look in terms of how do we leverage our mutual strengths, right? As you go through the next couple of slides, you get a better flavor of it, right? As a group, we've got about 600 to 700 years of collective experiences, whether working in corporates or working in leadership roles, working as entrepreneurs, working as serial entrepreneurs. So we have a mixed group of people who are part of our community, right? And we focus on business and people-related services, right? As a group, we realize that there is no one such entity which covers business and people in one shot, right? That's what we try to do. And we bring in all our experiences. So whether it is corporates, whether SMEs, MSMEs, startups, educational institutions, service companies, everybody has gone through a tremendous challenge in the last 2 years, thanks to COVID, right? It's been a tough time for many entrepreneurs. I personally have been dealing with entrepreneurs for the last 12 years. So I've seen the kind of struggles that they've gone through. I've also seen a lot of success stories during the struggles and a lot of failure stories during the struggle. So I think a lot of what we're going to share today is not theory, it's not gyan, it is purely experiential, right? So I think you should try and see how you can relate it to your own story. And I think that's a key, right? So this is what a little flavor about what HRPros is all about. Can I go to the next slide?
Because you have the control, no?
It's not going to the next slide.
Okay, wait.
I'm requesting remote control. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So what are we? I mean, we have a much larger vision in terms of what we want to do in HRPros. But what is our micro vision is to be a market platform for anybody who's working in the business or people related field and who are serving this whole segment of entrepreneurs, mid-sized corporates and large corporates. I think you'll have to control the slide, sorry.
Okay.
So what we do is, just excuse me, I'm having a bit of a throat problem. We realize through our experiences that there are different areas where entrepreneurs need help. And it's very difficult for entrepreneurs to access that help from one particular source. So Sunil now just spoke about the whole aspect about talent acquisition and hiring the right people. So we have a group of people who focus on talent acquisition in terms of different industries, different expertises, different levels, mid-level and senior level. So depending on what the organization requires, we have the people who provide those talent acquisition services, not one person, not one organization, but as a collective, right? The next one that we talk about is coaching and mentoring. Now, I got into coaching and mentoring 12 years ago, well ahead of time, when coaching and mentoring was not even fashionable, right? But now I think a lot of entrepreneurs are seeing the value of having a good mentor, seeing the value of having a good coach, seeing somebody who would actually help them to reinvent their business. It could be a business coach, it could be a leadership coaching, it could be executive coaching, it could be business mentoring, it could be pure solopreneur coaching. So this is the other bucket that we have, which we bring as an expertise from all of us. The third area is the area of learning and development, which is including training, building high performance teams, managing people for performance, POSH, which is preventive sexual harassment, which is a mandatory requirement now for all organizations, communication, presentation. So the whole thing that's got to do with training of people is the third bucket that we talk about. Then we have the bucket of HR consulting, where typically applicable to startups and early stage organizations which don't have a very strong HR person in their fold, right? But they need that kind of expertise, right? So in terms of people practices, how to build the right culture, how to build the right capability, how to ensure diversity and inclusion in the organization, how to ensure proper audits are happening about how HR is going to be, and the virtual HRO services. So this is the next bucket as far as HR consulting is concerned. Then comes the bucket on HR tech, which is as an entrepreneur, as a small entrepreneur or mid-sized entrepreneur, at some stage you need to automate, at some stage you need to go for a CRM, or you need to go for a ERP or whatever it is. So whether it's HR analytics, whether it is HRMS, whether it is payroll solutions, whether it is statutory compliances, employee assistance, these are all, almost like essential requirements for any entrepreneur, whether you're solo or whether you're partnership or whether you're a private limited company or what. And each of them at different stages require this kind of expertise. Right? So when you put it all together, right, what HRPros as a group collectively brings together is all of this, right? Hiring, training, consulting, technology, coaching, mentoring, all under one umbrella, right? I think we are possibly one of a kind of an organization in India and maybe elsewhere as well, who are bringing all this as a collective, right? Move on to the next slide, please. So out here, you get a flavor of the kind of HRPros that we have, right? You see a lot of gray hair, you see a lot of no hair, you see a lot of diversity. And I think that is a strength of this group, that, we have a very diverse group of experts, each one with their own expertise, 20 years of experience, 25 years of experience, 15 years of experience. And some have been entrepreneurs, some have come from corporate. So it's a very, very rich family of people who've come together to power this collective. just to give you a flavor of what is HRPros all about. You can move to the next. What we've done is, because we have those service streams that we give to the customers, we've also divided ourselves into 5 centers of excellence. So I personally look after the coaching and mentoring center of excellence. Manoj Maniket, who's here on the call, he looks after the learning and development of this thing. Jagannath, who's here on the call as well, looks after the HR consulting. Ravi, I'm not sure if he's here, but he looks after the HR tech. And Padmanabhan Pads, who's also here, looks after the talent acquisition. So what we've done is, within this group of people, we have 5 of us who take responsibility for requirements within each of these verticals, so that the customer experience is great and the customer gets what they're looking for from the right experts. So that's broadly HRPros. Yeah, move on.
1 second for some reason. Okay. Okay, so now we start with the essence of the program today. We're talking about organization growth pillars for entrepreneurs. But before we continue, ensure that all of you have joined our WhatsApp group. We have created a WhatsApp group. You will be finding the link for the WhatsApp group in the Zoom chat for those of you who haven't already joined us. The agenda of the WhatsApp group is, for the next 2 weeks, we will, CK and me will be available to you to answer specific queries that you may have about how to implement your today's learning in your business, right? So make use of that and ensure that you're joining the WhatsApp group and making maximum out of this program today. So let's get started. So before we start, a small introduction to Cherian, as we all like to call him, CK. CK, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. No, so I think the whole idea of this session is part of our knowledge share series. We said we have so much of knowledge residing within the experts that HRPros is a give us forum. We look in terms of how can we give back to the community, how can we give back to entrepreneurs, all the learnings and experiences that we have. So the reason why we created the WhatsApp group also was that we did not want this to be a one-off webinar that you attend for 2 hours and you go off and life goes on as normal. The idea of the WhatsApp group is that we've already started engaging with some of you before the session. We'd like to continue engaging with you after the session as well. So answer any queries that have come from today's session, any questions, any suggestions, any thoughts, so that the interaction with us as a group is available to all of you who've taken the trouble to register, right? A brief introduction about myself. I mean, I come with about 40 years of experience. 28 years I worked in the corporate sector in various leadership roles, Modi Xerox, Airtel, Reliance, Manpower. Since 2010, like the last 12 years, I've been a business mentor and a coach. My business partner, Chari, also is there sitting in Delhi. We started this 12 years ago, and we chose to focus on the SME sector and the entrepreneur sector, because we realized that is one sector that does not have access to professional help, right? And the kind of experience that we would bring would definitely make a difference. So if you look at my summary, it's basically a business growth mentor, individual and leadership coach, a leadership facilitator. I've been a part of a couple of panel discussions across different industry bodies, or keynote speaker, as a way of sharing back knowledges and experience which are relevant to entrepreneurs. So a lot of our experience has been entrepreneur focused. We also do coaching for corporate leaders. That's a different thing altogether. So that's a brief background about my 40 years, so that before we get into the session, you know where we're coming from. I think then Neetu, you could talk about yourself, and then we'll get into the session. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So here's a quick brief about me. I have been an entrepreneur most of my life. Been a serial entrepreneur, a parallel entrepreneur. I'm also a global mentor of change. I've worked with organizations both in India and Africa. So I have worked with startups, early stage organizations, and large SMEs. So got a good experience across all different segments of the entrepreneurships. I'm also an author So I've written a book called 8 Strategies to Increase Your SME Business Revenues. So those of you who would like to read that, you can download it for free from my website, coachingforbusiness.in. I work with a lot of associations as an author for their digital publications. Also, I've been a jury member for a couple of SME awards in India. So that's a quick brief about me. So let's get started. One of the things that I would like all of you to do today is take notes as much as possible. And the main thing that I would like you to think through is maybe towards the end of the session, if you could talk about what is that one thing that you will start doing? What is the one thing that you will continue doing? And what's the one thing that you will stop doing basis the learning or the sharing that you've had today? So keep that in mind. Would love to hear your thoughts, your learnings towards the end of the session today. And again, please remember to join the WhatsApp group. Now, CK and me had, before we started doing these series of group programs, we did a quick discussion with some of the entrepreneurs and asked them, what does the word reinvention stand for them? What does it relate to it? What does it mean for them? And this is some of the answer that we got. We like, habits, change, creative, growth, adaptability, celebration, dedication, learn, upgrade, celebration, etc., etc. So there's a typical answer that we got. But the one question that really resonated with everybody is that, can we as entrepreneurs, actually change our business without reinventing ourselves? And that's the crux of it, right? A lot of, just like the way there have been changes outside, there have been a lot of changes that has to happen inside itself. So I think for all of us as entrepreneurs, irrespective of the size of the organization, the state of your organization, and the industry in which you're working, the first reinvention, the first changes that you need to bring about is in yourselves. So you start looking at things in a different light, change your perspective, change the way you've been doing things till date, because obviously that's not been working, especially in the last 2-3 years of changes, right? Now, and it does not matter, like I said, which phase of the business you are, whether you're a startup or at the recovery stage or a growth phase. At any of the life cycle of your businesses, anytime, reinvention can play a major role to give you that growth acceleration. So obviously, when we're talking about growth acceleration, it is not at growing the same speed, but at a higher speed. And for that, you have to change the way you've been doing things till date. So one of them is, of course, to look at how do we do the reinvention. So the first thought is always to look at how do we change myself and how do I go about reinventing different aspects of our business. Now, I think this is a common situation that we are seeing with everybody with the last 3-4 years, especially that it's been a VUCA world. There has been lots of complexity, lots of uncertainty, a lot of ambiguous situations that have been coming up, right? And because of which, as founders, this is the most common challenges that we keep hearing about. So for all of you who have shared and not shared, but have seen are actually witnessing these problems, the good thing is that you're not alone. Everybody's in this boat, and the second good thing is that there is a way out of this. There's a way for us to work our way through this and come out into the lighter side of life, right? So let's look at, before we jump into how do we do that, I think the first question that we need to ask ourselves is, what kind of an organization do you want to build? What kind of an organization do you want to be? A lot of us are familiar with these two scenarios, right? A lot of organizations look very solid on the outside. They look like very structured, etc. But the moment there is an upheaval, there is a challenge, a storm, they break very easily. And for those of you who are in Bangalore, you will see that the left side image is a very common image, right? They look, the trees, the businesses that look very strong from the outside are actually very hollow inside. They don't have the structures and systems in place to be able to withstand a storm. So what we would like all of us to actually, one of the changes in our perspective too, is that how can we create a business, an organization that is more agile, that is lean, that leans into the storm, and because of which we are able to bounce back easily. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard stories in the last 2-3 years of how some businesses have actually flourished during the entire pandemic situation. While their own competitors in the same spaces have really struggled. I think one of the contributing factor for that is because they have managed to build an agile, the lean machine as an organization, rather than this huge, cumbersome, business the trees that we look on the left-hand side. So how do we start? Where do we start? Let's always start with the vision, right? Now, all of us here always know what is the current situation, and we also know what future do we need to build. We have a vision, we know where we want to go. Now, what's missing invariably between these two, and what it requires to connect these two, is your strategic thinking, and a disruptive thinking I'm talking about here, and strategic planning. So how do we start thinking, how do we do things differently, and then we start planning and executing them differently. So this is I think this is the beginning. So we look at a vision. Obviously, for a lot of us, 2021, 2020, 2021 has been either red or completely gray. And many of us have all identified that this is the year we have to get back on track. This is the year that we have to start focusing on growth. We have to make up for the last couple of years. And for those who have actually done well in the last 2 years, and this is the year that we start. That was, the last 2 years could be circumstances, but how do we plan and make sure that that kind of growth continues? For those who have struggled the last 2 years, this is the time for us to start making up. So whichever boat that we belong to, this year onwards, it's very critical for all of us as entrepreneurs. So how do we do that? So we start with a vision. What vision do you want to create for your organization? We define what goals that we have that we want to achieve. Now, after that goals, we start identifying for each of those goals, what are the strategies that we want to, what strategies we want to design to ensure that we meet those goals. And each of those strategies will have a set of tactics, your application, the execution piece of it, that will be required for you to ensure that those strategies are achieved, the goals are achieved. And only, and of course, we're looking at how we have all the measurement units, and only then we are able to define the outcome. Now, as business coaches, we have seen quite often that we know, many organizations, many entrepreneurs, they have a vision, they may even have goals, and they have an outcome that they are working towards, right? But it's the machinery in between that is missing. The cogs that actually make this your vision and your goals into reality, that is the one which is always missing. That is the one which is not detailed. And actually this is what is going to be the reason for your success, is how deeply and how clearly you've thought about your strategies and your tactics. And hopefully that today, this is what we are going to be looking at. Now, if our outcomes are not being achieved, instead of jumping back and changing the goals, we actually look at what tactics we've used, evaluate that. And if those tactics are not great, and what are they are great, and what are the strategies that we have identified? Look and see if there is an inefficiency in that. Has there been a gap in that? And only then you go to the goal. So either which ways, this is a continuous process. The wheels keep churning all the time. So you have to keep checking on this for your business, not just once in a year, but on a continuous basis.
Neetu, can I just add a point here? I think before you go to the next slide, I think this is one of my favorite slides. And I think I've also used this for large corporates for their strategic leadership workshops, strategic planning, strategic thinking, and strategic execution. but I've been using this for all the SMEs and entrepreneurs I've worked with in the last 12 years, right? Every entrepreneur is a dreamer. And I think that every entrepreneur should be a dreamer, right? But quite often what happens, the vision is a dream. I want to achieve 10 crores. I want to grow my business 40%. I want to grow my business 80%. I want to do 2x, right? That's the vision of the owner or of the founder of the company. But quite often it is not detailed out in terms of how is it going to happen, right? What are those 2 or 3 strategies I'm going to do differently this year compared to last year, right? If I got hit last 2 years, what am I going to do differently in 2022, right? Just defining the strategy again by itself will not be enough in terms of how am I going to execute that strategy, right? What are the specific actions? Who are the people responsible for those actions? What are the timelines for those actions, right? So I call it a GSA format, goal, strategy, action format. And I think a lot of the entrepreneurs have actually found it extremely useful because, you're suddenly giving shape to that vision, right? You're putting down things in black and white on paper, right? It's no longer in the mind, it's coming from the mind onto a piece of paper. This is my vision, which could be a slightly longer term vision. But for that, these are the 3 strategies. These are the 6 or 7 actions. These are the 5 people responsible for those actions. And this is the timeline by October, November, December, January. This is where I want to reach. Then when you start actually reviewing it on a monthly basis or a weekly basis or a fortnightly basis, you know whether the execution is happening the way the plan happened. One area where most entrepreneurs mess up is that the fancy vision does not translate into reality. So vision to reality is a huge gap. And then you start saying, no, maybe the market is not good, my team is not good. We start looking at reasons to justify why we did not achieve the vision, without looking at what we could have done differently, right? So today's session is going to be talking about those little building blocks, which will all make the strategy a lot more solid to help you to achieve your vision. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for that, CK. Okay. So while talking about vision and goals, I think one of the other most common situation that we find that entrepreneurs struggle is that you've got all these different functions within your organization. You've got different pieces of your team. If they are all not working in tandem, if they're not rowing together in the same direction, if even if just one of them is underperforming, what will happen is that you will obviously not be able to meet your goals and visions. Maybe it would take a longer time, it will take more efforts, or you may just completely lose out or completely miss out the mark as such, right? So today what we're talking about is these different segments, which how do we align all of them? A very common situation that CK and I always face when we are talking to business owners who are planning their entire vision and goals is that everything is in silos. They're not talking to each other. They're not connected the dots. So today we will try and see how we can actually connect the dots, because like you said, if one of them is not growing in the same speed and in the same direction, you will not reach your vision and goals. So let's talk about how we're actually going to be doing that. So start with, we're going to talk about your product or your service strategy. CK, over to you.
Yeah. So talking about, I think the topic of today's session was business acceleration, right? Acceleration is always a nice relative word. I look at, in a place like Bangalore, where many of us are from, right? Your average speed of driving is possibly 20 kilometers an hour. So if you go at 60 kilometers an hour, you think you're really going fast, right? You really think you're accelerating, right? And if you are able to touch 80 kilometers an hour, it's accelerating, right? So because that's very rare, you can possibly do it on 1 or 2 roads in Bangalore. So I think the acceleration is very dependent not on how good your vehicle is, right? It all depends on the road ahead. Is the road ahead clear, or do you have a lot of roadblocks? Do you have a lot of speed breakers? Do you have a lot of two-wheelers cutting across the way? So your acceleration is dependent on the road as much as it is dependent on the engine of the car. So I think as entrepreneurs also, we got to look at your road ahead in terms of what are those kind of roadblocks that are coming, which can actually be slowing you down. Right? Every time you think you're picking up speed, something comes in the way and you again slow down, right? You come down from 40 to 20, 20 to 50, and your speed keeps fluctuating like we typically drive in Bangalore on second gear, third gear, or whatever it is, right? So acceleration is not something that is entirely in your control unless you remove the roadblocks, which are in your control, right? The first element of the boat going straight or the car going fast, I think, is about your product or service positioning strategy. You might think that some of these things that we're talking about may not apply to me. I'm so small. I'm only a solopreneur. I'm only doing 1 crore. I'm only doing 50 lakhs. I'm only doing 5 crores. I'm only doing 10 crores. Believe me, from our experiences, what we are sharing today is what has been used by entrepreneurs across startup stage, early stage, growth phase, and slowdown phase, right? And because whatever you're doing, you got a product or you got a service. That product or service is something that is meant for a customer or consumer, right? Is it meeting that requirement, right? When you actually go down to details, you find that many of the products which are being sold are not profitable, right? They're being sold at cost price, or they're being sold 10% above cost price, and it is not competitive in the marketplace. You're not getting the kind of market share that you need to get. So, and it happened very much in the pandemic 2 years ago, that many of the people were depending on business from the large metros like Bangalore and Chennai and Hyderabad. And suddenly the business there slowed down. They had to shift to the B category cities and C category cities where the product requirement was totally different from what they had today, or the service requirement was different, or the pricing requirement was different, right? So if you continue with what you have and say, look, this is what I have, take it or leave it, most customers would leave it. How do you keep adapting your product or service strategy depending on, is it actually meeting the requirement or not? Right? So this picture on the right is one of the clients that I'm helping in North Karnataka, Belgaum. Right? They started making a small product called tooth points for the JCB excavators for the construction industry. They had a good product, but they had not tested out that product, whether the market really wants that product or market wants something else. The product was launched, and then we realized that the product was way too premium, right? They were competing with the Chinese manufacturers who were possibly 40% cheaper in terms of price. And within 1 or 2 months of market coverage, they realized that, look, they had a misfit. What they were trying to sell in the market is not what the customer market wanted. But they had to relook at, we sort of got them to relook in terms of their product strategy and come up with a value product for the Indian market, which was competitive with the Chinese products with a similar quality, right? So that they could go back to their channel partners and dealers and say, look, now we have a made in India product equivalent to the Chinese product, matching in terms of price. Now you better take it. Right? So that product strategy which they started off with was designed for failure. Today, they've changed their company's product strategy to actually cater to the value segment first and have a premium product for the premium customers who want that. So your product or service strategy, it could be a service to a customer, will have to be adapted all the time. What works in a metro will not work in a non-metro. What works with one set of customers will not work with another set of customers. The question is, how flexible are you on your product or service strategy? Yeah, so that's a first point as far as this is concerned. This is another example. Like I said, we're going to be sharing a lot of examples and case studies, so it's less of theory. This was another client that we worked with in Bomasandra industrial area, right? They're into the refrigeration business for hotels and food courts and bakeries and stuff like that, right? They had the same problem. When the lockdown happened, all the metros were locked down. All the food courts were closed. All the corporate offices were closed. All the bakeries were closed. Now, where do they sell their product? Right? They had good products, but no market. And that's when they suddenly realized that there's a good market in the B category cities and C category cities, the Coimbatores and the Trichis and Madurais and Salems and all that. But those guys did not want very expensive premium products, right? So this company was quickly able to reinvent its product strategy and come up with innovation and import substitution, saying that, look, we are going to give you value-made products which are good for you, for your market, for your budget, right? So they did not get cowed down by the fact that the pandemic has come and the market is bad. They were not sitting and crying that the market is bad. They said, market is bad, let's reinvent ourselves. Right? We have to do something different. Let's use our expertise. So this was an example of a manufacturing company quickly being able to relook at its product strategy. And they're doing extremely well. In fact, they are actually, they're inaugurating a new plant this month, right? Forget about downsizing. They're actually upsizing, right? Because the demand now is, when the market is opened up again, the demand is so huge that now they've had to have a second plant coming up. So these are examples of, being agile and like the palm tree, which is more agile as compared to the big looking tree, right? So this is an SME, maybe about 30, 40 crores in terms of size, not very big, but able to quickly adapt. Move on to the next one, Neetu. Yeah, okay. Neetu, then talk about competition.
Yeah. So the next pillar that we're looking at is your competition. How do you map your competition? Who's your competition? Whom do you call as a competitors? How do you differentiate yourself from the competitor? And this is especially important for a lot of entrepreneurs who say, I'm providing the same business, same services, the same product as my competitor. So what happens is, in the eye of the customer, you're a forest. You're just one of the trees in the forest. So you have to figure out how can you differentiate yourself from the competitor. You figure out what is the kind of wallet share the competitor has vis-a-vis yourself. You have to figure out whether you're going to be a market follower or a market creator, because your strategy as a market creator is going to be different, whereas your strategy as a market follower is going to be different. You really need to know your businesses, your competitors. In fact, one of the product positioning or the service positioning statement will come in only when you understand what a competitor is. So if you make a positioning statement completely ignoring the competitor, you realize that you may actually be confusing the customer, or in the eyes of the customer, you're exactly the same as the competitor. It's not actually any differentiation. So first, map your competitors to ensure that your product or your service differentiation is also very clear from the customer's perspective. Look at your product or your service from the customer's perspective and see what are they comparing you to a competitor. You may think that you are the big Amazon is your competitor, but for the customer, they may be comparing it to the smaller businesses that they are able to easily reach out to. So figure out the competitor from the customer's perspective. Here is an example of a case study of an organization that we worked with. This was a company that launched its digital business suite, helping out retailers to create, to accept digital payments and also to manage their inventory online. So they were very excited about doing this, and they were working with small retailers, mom and pop retailers, getting them on board onto their app so that they are able to enable them to be digitized. But the interesting thing is, when I started working with them, we realized that quite a few of the retailers who were on board, they were not active on their platform, and they were actually active on other competitive apps. So when we went back and we asked them what was it, we realized that they had a bigger challenge. Their challenge was not about accepting digital payments only. Their bigger challenge was that they wanted to reach out to new customers. That was their challenge, right? How can we reach out to new customers? How do we market our products and services? That was their challenge. And so this organization, once they realized this, and they realized this is what the competitor was offering, and this is what the customer was required, and we are not giving them, they actually quickly pivoted from a digital business suite to an e-commerce app. Okay, so they had to build one or two features into that, but they were able to pivot that. So that's an example of, again, agility, like these the palm trees, and also being aware that your customer was evaluating you not as a business suite, but comparing them to a competitor, which is an e-commerce app. So that realization actually helped them so that they would not have wasted the next 2 years trying to onboard and engage retailers who were actually looking at something else. They were looking at your product as a complete product, different product itself.
I can give one more example, in fact, from the previous case, which I showed about the manufacturing company, which came up in the refrigeration business, right? They've been around for some time. They've been around for about 20 years. So they were getting almost 100 lakhs of business every month from inquiries. So the first time I met them, they said, oh, we get a lot of business from inquiries. I said, how much do you get from inquiries? They said, about 100 lakhs a month. I said, how many inquiries do you get in a month? So they didn't have the data. A lot of entrepreneurs don't look at data, right? That's another important point. So I said by the next meeting, I would like to see the data as to how many inquiries you've got in the last 6 months, right? What has been the average number of inquiries per month? They found that they were getting almost 60 inquiries a month, right? Because they've been around for some time. And out of the 60 inquiries, they were getting business worth 100 lakhs, 1 crore a month. Right? I said, out of the 60 inquiries, how many have actually converted into business for you? And again, they had never looked at that kind of data analytics. They said they found that only 20% of the inquiries actually converted into orders for them. So I said, what about the balance 80%? Where are we losing those 80%? Why are we losing those 80%? Who are we losing those 80%? They had no idea. But they were very happy with what they were getting without looking at what they were losing. Right? I think so that's an important point that, then we took that as a goal that in the next 12 months, what will it take to improve our inquiry conversion from a 20% to a 35% or a 40%? What do we need to do differently? Then they started reaching out to some of the customers with they lost out. And they found customers said, no, your pricing is too high. Your salesperson never reached us. We've heard about your customer complaints. They started discovering, why customers are not buying their product. And I think that helped them to relook at their product strategy, helped them to relook at their pricing strategy, helped them to look at their after sales strategy, all because we started focusing on what is competition doing, right? So sometimes as entrepreneurs, we tend to be caught up in our own world without looking at what's happening. Who are we losing business to? And why are we losing business? What are they doing differently that we are not doing? Or what are we doing differently that they are not doing? And I think those are points that we want you to sort of reflect on, that product strategy, service strategy, competition are all success factors, right? We learn from competition, we learn from our losses, we learn from our gains. And when you start applying that to your business, whether you're a design studio or into pest control business, you're into agriculture, or you're into HR services or into recruitment, it doesn't matter. End of the day, we are all competing in a marketplace. And if you don't stand out in that marketplace, we will end up getting 2% share, 3% share, 5% share of the market. So I think that's important. Yeah. So I think we open it up to questions now as far as whatever we've covered so far. So rather than keeping questions right at the end, we thought we'll take it as we're going along, so that while it's still fresh in your mind, we'll be happy to answer one or two questions before we move on to the next section.
I'll just stop sharing so that we can look at the answer, some of the questions. So we've spoken about product and service strategies. We've spoken about your competition mapping. Okay, so these two areas, your vision and your goal. So do you have any questions around this about your business?
Neetu, there's a question from Avnish.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
how
Avnish.
to revert back to customer for RFQ on the same day?
Hi, good evening. As
Yes.
Mr. Cherian was saying, see, similar story even our industry had, like we were not analyzing what is the RFQ has come and how many got converted and where we are losing. So last 1 year we have started tracking that, and the result where it was hardly 6 to 7% has gone to 30 to 35%, but still I am not happy with 35%. Now, what is happening? Most of the customers' requirement, like they ask, they send the inquiry. Maybe a day there are 5-6 inquiry, but the costing is required. Tag time they look at 4 to 5 hours. I want immediately the costing. So that's my major challenge.
Sure, I think so. I think once you understand the customer requirement, that look, once you get an RFQ, you got to respond within 24 hours or respond within 6 hours. Do you have the internal capability to do that?
So right now, what is happening? I have only 2 persons to do the costing. So I would check with you whether you guys have come across with any kind of software which can resolve this, or is it totally man-oriented only?
Software for resolving what?
Costings.
So Avnish, so there is something called your pricing configurator. Okay. Now this is different for different businesses. I don't know whether it is there for your industry, but you can also create a template for yourself internally. A lot of organizations do this where their product is almost custom built, right? So with every change or there's any customization, one change, one variable will impact others. So they create this template, which is like it's called a configurator. So which says that, okay, if I use input A, the price increases back there. If I use input B instead of A, the price increases like that. So it's almost like it's a logical thing that they prepare like that. Check that out. If it is not possible for you to, if for your industry, if there's a pricing configurator. If not, I know about people who use Excel itself to create that in-house homegrown configurators for yourself, right? In fact, right now I'm advising an organization, and they are in this business of customs and freight forwarding. And very interesting, they've also realized, because the pricing keeps changing, right? There's a different pricing every day. So they have proactively started sharing their, they have what they call the base price with their customers beforehand, and then telling them that, once you confirm an order or a job with us, we will give you the final pricing. That's also another way for you to address the pricing challenges.
My challenge is like each inquiry is different. It's not similar. And each customer requirement is different. So I'm unable to make it something on common. Though I have made some Excel sheet format, but that is not serving my purpose. Each inquiry I have to go into the detail.
So Avnish, what I'll suggest is, are you part of the WhatsApp group? You could just join the WhatsApp group.
Yes, I have already joined.
The reason why we're keeping the WhatsApp group active for the next 2 weeks is that, some of the queries which you want to further get clarity on, we'll be able to give you some kind of clarity. Like one of the clients I spoke about, the refrigeration company, they do a lot of projects for hotels and food courts, right? No two projects are the same.
Yes.
So they have the same challenge that once they understand the customer requirement, they have to convert that into a commercial proposal within 24 hours or 48 hours. Right?
Yes.
So I'll also check with them in terms of what software they're using. I'm not able to give you an answer right now.
Thank you.
But we can check out these things and get back so that you get some kind of answer to your question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other question? Or
do we have time? We have a question from Kenny Matt.
Yes, Kenny.
Access to global markets, distribution networks, positioning against entrenched competitors.
We're covering that in the next section. I think. Yeah. We spoke about product and service strategy so far. I think the next thing we're going to talk about is market coverage.
Great, thank you.
So we can move on to the next section, Neetu.
Okay.
So any other question that you've had which you've not asked but you want to ask, please put it in the chat group, right? So that at the end of the session, we'll have all the questions in the chat and we'll also be able to engage further on the WhatsApp group. Please do that. Don't hold back. Any question in your mind, please put it down here. We want the session to be useful for you. We want the session to add value to some of the areas that you've been struggling with, right? So we spoke about vision, we spoke about strategy, we spoke about planning, we spoke about product and service strategy, we spoke about competition. Now, as you get clearer about your product and service strategy, I spoke briefly about the product or service strategy that's applicable to a metro city, a B category city, a global market are all different. You can't have the same product or service and pricing applying to all markets, right? The second pillar of acceleration would be to relook at your market coverage strategy, right? I think that's a second part. And market coverage strategy also, we are further breaking it down into 3 elements, which is about which all geographies are you covering today? To achieve your longer term vision, which all geographies would you like to cover? Are you happy with just Bangalore? You want to be Bangalore plus 2 states? Do you want to be South India? Do you want to be all India? Do you want to be global? Do you want to cover Middle East? Do you want to cover Asia Pacific? So that geography ambition is driven by your vision. That I want to be a global player, or I want to be a all India player, right? I gave that example of that JCB company. They started off saying we only want to be in North Karnataka. So I said, why only North Karnataka? Why not Karnataka? 1 month later, I said, why only Karnataka? Why not other states of South India? Then we went beyond that. Why not? You're already based in Belgaum, so why don't you cover Maharashtra as well? So in 1 year, they moved from a North Karnataka coverage plan to a pretty large geographical coverage plan. Obviously, they had to plan accordingly. So what all customer segments you want to cater to, whatever consumer segments you want to cater to, and how are you going to reach those? What channels are you going to reach those geographies? Right? So as far as geography is concerned, for your respective business, look at what are my focus areas. This is where I am doing business today. For the next 12 months, do I want to continue only doing business here? Do I want to consolidate my business here? Or do I want to do this plus get into 1 or 2 more new geographies? The geography could either be within India or it could be global, right? Do you want to move from a category city to A plus B or A plus B plus C? So start defining your market coverage strategy based on your product or service, right? When you're talking of acceleration, which means you have to do something different from what you've done so far, right? What worked for you in the past will not work for you in the future if you continue doing what you did in the past, right? Similarly, customer segments, right? If you're getting all your business from large corporates, and large corporates are not really investing now because they have a lot of work from home and hybrid models are happening, they might be deciding not to invest much in capital, or they may not be launching new offices, they may not be launching new retail outlets. If that is a segment that was giving you business in 2019, 2020, maybe in 2022 and 23, that's not the segment to focus on. How can I relook at my customer segments, right? Where there is still a huge opportunity. I've spent all my 40 years working only in India. I have not worked anywhere outside India. And I'm a firm believer that India is a huge market. There's no shortage of potential. The shortage of potential is in our mind in terms of wanting to reach that potential and how we can reach that potential, right? So start defining how am I going to reach those geographies? What all channels do I need to use? Will I have a direct sales team? Will I have a channel sales team? Will I focus only on institutional? Will I look at e-commerce? Would I look at social media to reach out a larger segment? How do I reach out to a larger segment so they get to know about my product and my services and how unique I am in the marketplace and what am I doing differently? First, define your geography. Then define your customer segments that I want to focus within those geographies. And then define how am I going to reach that? How am I going to reach that place, right? How am I going to make those customers aware that I even have this product or services, I'm good at what I do, right? So these are the 3 main elements of a go-to-market, market coverage part, once the product and service has been defined. I can move on.
Yeah, I wanted to add something here.
Yeah,
one of the, again, the client that I'm working with recently, we've identified something called cross-pollination. That the opportunity for growth is cross-pollination. What does it mean is that we have a set of clients who's working with one branch or one division of the organization, but they're not working with another branch or another division of the organization. This is your low-hanging fruits, right? So if one particular customer is buying one product but not another product, they're working with your Chennai branch but not with your Mumbai branch. They are, they are buying X number of items, they're not buying Y items at all, related items. So this, if you are able to identify this, this is your low-hanging fruit because it's easier to reach your existing customers and buy more rather than go out and for completely new customers and try to tell them to start buying from. So cross-pollination is a very quick and easy growth acceleration strategy that you can implement for your business.
So coming back to the question that Neetu asked in the beginning, can we reinvent our business without reinventing ourselves? I think the answer to that question for each one of you will actually give you a lot of answers in terms of, if I continue doing what I was doing, will I actually accelerate my business or will I just somehow survive, right? So this is another case study example, which an organization which I've been working with for I think 7-8 years now over a period of time. Right? It's a food, they're in the food business, right? FMCG foods company, right? When we started off, they were just focusing on selling their product through the general trade, the smaller retailers, the kirana shops and those kind of shops, right? I'm not an expert in the FMCG industry. I'm not an expert in food industry, but I'm an expert in business, right? So I said, with this kind of a market coverage strategy, how are you going to grow your business? Who are the other channels that you can reach out to, right? That's when they started reaching out to the modern trade, modern retail, right? The big bazaars and the big, all the other star bazaars and those kind of big chains, which were taking huge requirements, but they wanted special pricing. They wanted customized products for that. So the product strategy and the pricing strategy had to be customized to get into modern retail, right? Then 2 years back, when the pandemic struck and nobody was going to modern retail, nobody was going to a Kirana store, we said, what about e-commerce? What about Flipkart? What about Amazon? What about Big Basket, right? Now they are the ones who are catering to your market. If you're not in that segment, you're losing business opportunity, right? So every year, if you notice, they were actually relooking at their product strategy. They were relooking at their market coverage strategy. They were relooking at their channel strategy, right? And just see some of the figures here, right? Today, they get almost 100 lakhs a month from online business, which they never got 2 years or 3 years ago, right? They're getting over 100 lakhs a month on exports. While the Indian market was looking a bit tough for them, they started focusing on Gulf Food Exhibition. They participated in the Gulf Food Exhibition in Dubai. They got access to the Africa market. They got access to the Middle East market. And see where they've grown, right? In 2015-16, they were at about 25 crores. They were doing about 2 crores a month, right? By 2018-19, they're already gone to about 40 crores a year, right? By 21-22, they're already grown from 2 crores a month to 5 crores a month. Same company, same products, same team, with a little bit of additions, right? But because they changed their strategy and looked at it, so they've actually touched 60 crores last year, despite the pandemic. Despite the pandemic, if you notice, they've actually grown their business, despite most of the Kirana shops being closed for 1.5 years, right? Because they relooked at the way they were reaching out to the market. They relooked at their product strategy. They were innovative, they were agile, and they adapted, right? Not just that, I think not only has their revenue grown, I think they also focus on profitability of the products has grown, right? In 2015-16, they had no P&L focus at all, right? They were just focusing on revenue. I want revenue. I want 2 crores of revenue. I want 2.5 crores of revenue billing in a month. That's all they were focused on. Then we started bringing the culture of look at revenue and look at profit, right? If there are certain products in your portfolio which are not profitable, remove them from your portfolio, clean it up, right? No point having 100 SKUs or 100 products in your portfolio. Have only 50, but 50 profitable products, right? So then we also started focusing on geographies. They found that in Karnataka, they were making profit. In Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, they were actually making losses. They had never looked at business that way, right? So the whole business model was reinvented. And I think it is very clearly reflecting in the results, right? They've not gone for external funding, or maybe bank funding. They've not gone for VCs. They've not gone for anything else, no Band-Aid. Slow and steady acceleration, right? But if a company can grow from 25 crores to 60 crores and targeting 80 crores this year and 100 crores next year, to me, that's acceleration. They took 20 years to reach 20 crores, and they'll go from 20 to 80 to 100 in the next 5 years. If that's not acceleration, then what is acceleration, right? But acceleration has to be done slow and steady, bottom up, right? And I think that's the important point that I want to make as far as this is concerned. Yeah, go on. Yeah, so I think this talks about, you see the flow. We're talking with vision, strategy, product strategy, competition, market coverage strategy. All of that is sort of helping you to realign yourself to the vision, either the old vision or a new vision that you're setting for your organization for the next 1 or 2 years, right? So those are all the building blocks we would call for getting to your vision. Yeah.
Okay. So now that you've identified what is your customer strategy, what customers you want to reach out to, which geographies are they present at, what channels are you going to be using to reach out to them, what products or what services are you going to position to them? Once you've got clarity in all of these areas, only then you get into marketing. And because without identifying these other strategies, you may be spending money on marketing the wrong product or the wrong messaging for your product or services. You may be using the wrong channels, you may be talking to the wrong customers, or you may be spending your marketing in the wrong geographies. So without clarity on all the others, I suggest do not jump into marketing. Now, when you have the clarity on all of these things, you first start with the brand presence. Now, I'm sure a lot of organizations will always say that we are too small, so we may not be ready for to create a brand for ourselves. Or they are somebody mentioned they are deep-rooted competitions who are bigger than me, and presence. What will I do? The point is that since without your brand strategy in place, without what is a brand strategy? It's all talking about how you are different, how you become visible to your potential customers. Without that in place, you are going to be just one of the loud sounds which is out there. Today, marketing is a very noisy place. And if you're not going to stand out, you're just one of the loud noise out there. So you have to ensure that these brand elements of yours, and you don't have to go, I'm not telling you to become the Coca-Colas and the Pepsis of the world, those huge brands, but you still have to have something which stands for you, your vision, your goals, your culture, your belief, your product, your services. All of those things have to be concentrated into a brand statement for your organization, and whether it is online or offline. Even your value proposition, which is there, which will come from the customers that you want to reach out to, the markets that you want to reach out to, the product or services that you're offering to them. All of these, if you see, they are interconnected. So with all of these is when you get your brand presence established, identity established internally before you start taking it out externally. So if you're not clear about it internally, it's what will you do outside? And customer persona is a reflection. You use all of this information on how do you address the customer that you want to attract for your business. Now let's look at the marketing piece, right? What are you going to be using your marketing for? Are you going to be creating awareness? Are you going to be creating credibility? Are you going to be creating a need? You need to identify what is your marketing communication going to be about. Generally, my experience has been that most of us as entrepreneurs do not have an experience or a core expertise in marketing. And I'm differentiating this from sales, okay? I'm differentiating marketing from sales. Here, marketing is all about building awareness, goodwill, and credibility and need. Sales is about getting the leads in and closing that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the marketing piece, right? Especially in today's world when cold calling is not available out there. But the good thing is social media is rampant, and in fact, they're saying no, social media has become the new cold calling. So how are you using that, right? And again, our advice is that since a lot of us are not experts in marketing, we should get help of an expert, and also focus on keeping aside a certain budget for your marketing and branding. And you don't call it a cost, but look at it as an investment, because brand does not get built overnight. So even if you keep a small amount of money, keep it aside month on month. It's like your SIP, right? Small amounts of SIP of those investments is going to give you a return on the longer run. So, so here's an example of a tech startup again, with whom I had worked with. So once they understood who is their customer and how does the customer prefer to communicate, they were using the wrong channels to communicate to their customers. So there was a channel like the LinkedIn channel. The customer would actually want it to be used. They use LinkedIn to get educated rather than for generating leads. They would prefer that the education happens on LinkedIn, but the lead generation or the earlier need identification happens over email or phone calls. So we once we've identified what was the customer, who's the customer persona that they were targeting, and how do they prefer to communicate, We actually changed our entire marketing communication. We said, okay, we will not put this on LinkedIn, but we're going to put this kind of communication. The messaging became important once you've understood your customer. Other than this rapidly going on, everybody's putting posts, let's also put posts. That's not what we're talking about.
I think two other mistakes that a lot of entrepreneurs make, I think, is one is they mix up sales and marketing. Right?
Yes.
They have a sales team and say, this is my marketing team. Right? And the fundamental difference between sales and marketing. Sales is to go and cover the customers. Marketing is to create the need. Right? And second one is a lot of small entrepreneurs say that, look, I don't have the budget. I can't spend 25, 30,000 rupees a month on my branding. I can't afford it. I say, you can't afford it, then don't forget about your growth also. Right? Right. It's a cost. It's an investment. Like Neetu said, it's not a cost. If you hire somebody, you'll pay 25,000. You have a good, decent marketing branding agency, you'll pay 25, 30, 40, whatever, depending on the requirement. But without that investment of 4, 5 lakhs a year, you want your business to go up by 50, 60 lakhs or 70 lakhs or 1 crore. It cannot happen. Right. So marketing is no longer a luxury. I think it's become a necessity. Right. How you do it is the smart marketing in terms of how do you customize it to your business, reaching out to your target audience. Thanks.
I think it's also very similar to your production. What you put in, your inputs will define what you get, what you get as outputs. So if you don't have any inputs, you don't have any investments, no budgets, then you don't get those kind of results also. So now here, this is something special that we put on, especially for solopreneurs, because we've these are common challenges that CK was saying for solopreneurs, right? So one thing with solopreneurs is you're looking at your own personal branding. When we're looking at that, a lot of organizations or a lot of solopreneurs have this, that my clients, my customers, the market, they know me and not my company's name. If are you the brand or is the company the brand? Which one is it, right? And whatever it is, you invest on that. Okay, is the customer buying because of you or because of the company as an image? Again, as a solopreneur, you may decide and say, hey, my service is like that. Like CK and we are business coaches. We are the image, right? But if for someone, other organizations, I work with somebody else who's like, I want to change this. I want people to stop thinking about me and start thinking about my company. So obviously, your entire marketing is going to change according to that. While you may be the face of the organization, it's the organization that is more important at that. So think through about this for your own sake, okay? And this is a very interesting acronym called CARDS, right? We talk about how do you build your personal branding by ensuring that you build credibility, authenticity, reliability, dependability, discipline, and simplicity. So if you sit and ask yourself, how do I build credibility in the market with people who do not know me? Remember, credibility is not for your this part of the marketing is not for your existing customers. So if you're saying that my customers, once they know that I'm very true, very genuine, that is your existing customers. But an unknown person, how do you build credibility to an unknown person who does not know you or your business? How do you show it to them that you're authentic? How do you show them that you can rely on me before they start doing business? How can you show that you are disciplined and you're dependable? And of course, the last one is simplicity. This is something even more required in today's world because there's so many variables, there's so many options available for a customer. So how can you simplify it as much as possible so that make it easy for them to choose you vis-a-vis a competitor?
See, one thing about play your cards right is what I say normally, that if you are good in what you do and people don't know you're good at what you do and how good you're at what you do, why will they deal with you? Or why will somebody refer you? Right? So a lot of solopreneurs struggle with this. They're very good at what they do, but they're very shy to let the world know how good they're at what they do. And because of which they lose a lot of opportunities. So I think just think about it in terms of how can you start educating your target consumers or people who are reaching out to your target consumers as to your credibility and authenticity and reliability as a vendor or a supplier or service provider, whatever it is, right? Extremely important. I see a lot of solopreneurs in today's meeting as well, right? It's not easy being a solopreneur, right? And if you don't get this part right, it'll remain a struggle for a long time. You will not get the kind of rates that you want to get in the marketplace. You will not be able to command a premium in the marketplace. You'll always be struggling. And if you want to accelerate your business, this is one important element of personal branding and building your.
Yeah. I think, and then the next important pillar as a solopreneur for you is to look at collaboration. Obviously, we all understand we cannot do everything, even if we want to do. And if you are right now doing everything, then you're doing injustice to your business. So collaboration is the one way which would help you ensure that you're able to increase your bandwidth without actually hiring people if that's not something that you can do. So alliances and partnership with like-minded businesses who are also targeting similar customers is a sure shot fire route for you to accelerate your business, right? The focus is, and by doing this, you will get a delta on both your market coverage and your product strategy. I'll explain that with an example. And this is, we always, in fact, HRPros is a great example of e-commerce, how we get together, how we collaborate together and ensure that we are offering more to our customers, and we are also covering a larger portion of the market. So I think this is the okay. This is also okay. While how do you do the collaboration? How do you find the collaborating partners? Is obviously through smart business networking. I'm sure all of you know about business networking, but we are focusing on the word smart. So the idea is how can you become highly referable? How do you connect with the right? Use your cards, identify whom do you need to network with? How do you network with them? What can you do to create that credibility even with your reference partners? A lot of you have told, I think one or two of you today have told that I don't do marketing. I get businesses through reference, word of mouth, which is great. A lot of the delta is on how can you make that reference, that word of mouth conscious. Right now, word of mouth is what? If somebody finds an opportunity, hears about an opportunity which can be serviced by you, and if they are available in that conversation, and if they remember you, you will get the reference. But how can we convert that and make it more conscious? How can we become more referable? How can we build this lasting relationship between potential collaborators? That is very important. And of course, the last statement is give without expecting. We truly believe in that. CK, in fact, truly believe in that. This webinar that we are doing today also is one of our ways of giving and ensuring that this is not just a Gyan session. By now, you would have realized that today's session is based on actual live coaching that we do on a one-on-one basis with all the business owners that we've been working with in the past 10, 15 years, right? So going back to the example that I gave you earlier, when we identified for this tech startup, right, that their customers were needed more help on online marketing and delivery logistics. How did they do that? They actually went around and collaborated. Obviously, they were a tech company. They couldn't get into delivery, so they actually collaborated with the delivery services. And they also they actually tried initially to do the online marketing themselves. They could not do it. So they collaborated with an agency, and together they created the entire portfolio, which was expected by the retailers. So now they were able to not only attract more retailers, but to also retain them, because they were able to do give them a more complete plate of services, rather than the half pieces that they were getting earlier. So this is how the collaboration actually worked out for these one of our clients that we spoke about. Okay, so before we jump on to the next one, again, for those of you who have not joined the WhatsApp group, please go ahead and join the WhatsApp group. The link will be shared again on the chat by our team. And in the meanwhile, let's take a breather here and ask questions. Do you have any questions around what we spoke about, the second piece of it? That is, we spoke about your marketing strategies. We have spoken about your collaborations, your personal networking, your personal branding, any of these questions, anything related to this?
How many of you struggle? Can I ask a question before you ask questions? How many of you actually struggle with growing your business as solopreneurs?
I think all of us struggle as a solopreneur at some way or other.
Right. Sunil, you spoke about getting references. References don't come by accident, right? They come by design, right? Something you're doing right, which is helping people to refer you, right?
Absolutely.
So I think all these tips that we're talking about is not difficult to do. It's very easy to, I myself am a solopreneur practically. I'm a partner in Delhi, but 80% of my business comes through references, 80% of my business comes through collaborations, and it all comes through networks. So, I don't have a sales team. I don't do any business development, but I still get enough business because of investing time and energy in networking and in collaboration and building credibility. So I'm saying it's not difficult. It requires a slight mindset shift that, I am okay promoting my services so that others get to know what I do. So please ask any questions that, relate to what we've covered so far before we move to the.
I have a question. Yeah.
Yes, Sunil.
Sorry. Okay. How do we identify, let's say I'm working on my digital marketing and I'm looking at, leads through that. And most of the time I've come across, there are people, they're more interested in branding than actually getting me leads. So that's another challenge that I've faced, that, to identify the right out. I don't know much about digital marketing or even to screen to choose a vendor to help do digital marketing for me.
We'll take it on WhatsApp group. We'll take it on the WhatsApp group. I think we'll guide you on that. We'll guide you.
And that's a common challenge for
It's
a
a
lot
common
of
challenge. It's a common
yes.
challenge.
Very nice. Thank you.
CK, Shyam Kumar Katta has got a question.
Yeah, Shyam Kumar.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, actually, my name is Benny Katta. Okay, Shyam Kumar is my official name. Thank you for that time. I have a question regarding HNI networking. So, of course, in business, we speak about having HNI connect is always good for any kind of contacts. But my question is it right to invest on the HNI networking to make those kind of connects, not only into Christian communities, but even outside the communities? So you need to engage a lot of people. You need to bring them into tables. So basically, you need to spend money. It could be lunches, dinners, anything like that. So do you think expecting business out of that spending, or what kind of connect should we create that environment?
I can't answer specifically to your business, but for instance, one of the clients I've been helping out in Bangalore, they run a furnishing showroom in Bangalore, and they were targeting HNI clients in Bangalore, and there's a huge segment of HNI clients in Bangalore, but they did not have the bandwidth and team to go and reach out to them. So they use collaboration as a way of reaching out to them, right? They collaborate with other people who are also dealing with the HNI segment, right? Since they were into furnishing, curtains, blinds, etc., they started collaborating with interior architects. They started collaborating with furniture providers who are all catering to the HNI segment. So they were able to access the HNI segment through a collaborative route, because those people will say, look, these guys are very good at this particular work. So there are different ways of reaching out. Like I said, once you define your customer segment, what are the best channels to reach out to those customer segments, whether it is directly, whether it is through collaborations, whether it's through networking events where HNIs are there. I think a lot of it will have to be, customized to your context and your offerings, right? So again, maybe this is something that we can take in the WhatsApp group. The reason why we created the WhatsApp group was exactly this, that, all questions cannot be answered in the limited time, because we also have a cutoff time of 8 o'clock. But we could continue the discussions, engagement, within the group. And while we're answering one person's question, we might possibly answering many other people's questions also. So thanks for that.
I'm perfectly fine, brother. I'll take it offline then. Yeah.
Sure.
I think one more thought, Benny, for you to do is to look at these two matrices, which is called cost of customer acquisition and your lifetime value of your customer. So if your lifetime value of a HRI customer is very high, then you may have a higher cost of acquisition, that which is where your expenses that you're going to incur on attracting that customer can be high. But if your lifetime value is very low, then you may have to look at the lower cost of acquisition channels.
That's exactly, sister. Actually, the cost goes up, and at the end of the day, you end up billing those costs to somebody else. So, which is actually not right on our part. So, a lot of things, I think I'll take this offline. Yeah.
We'll help you. Yeah, we'll help you figure it out in some way. Yeah. Let's move on, Neetu. Yeah.
Sure.
We are tight on time, so let's move fast.
Okay. So now let's now let's look at the next pillar, which is the organization and the people strategies. So now that we've understood which geographies, what products, what market coverage, what's your product strategy, what is your marketing strategy, what is your goals, we've identified all of these. And if you see, it's almost sequential. Okay. Once we've identified all of these, we need to ask questions on who is going to deliver these strategies. Which department, which function is going to lead your growth acceleration. So if you are a manufacturing organization and you say that I need to increase my my capacity, my product, then the production is going to take the lead. Then your investment on your production team, you have to organize your production team or your production function. You focus on that. Whereas if you're saying that business development, getting more leads into the organization is going to is what is going to lead my growth acceleration, then you focus on your sales department. If you're saying it's the conversion that's more important, or it's the existing customer delivery which is more important, so that my delivery team can easily increase my revenue strategies, then you focus on your revenues. So if you're looking at it, which department wise, which department is going to lead your growth, and what are the goals that you're going to have for each of those departments? My production will accelerate by 50% or 10%. My sales has to increase by X%. So you're identifying the goals for each of those departments. And what kind of resources would they require to be able to deliver all the strategies that you have identified till now? This
is another area which I think a lot of entrepreneurs compromise on, right? I had this recent case of a customer. They just introduced a new product, so they're doing about 1.5 lakhs of revenue a month. Entrepreneur thinks that we should do 5 lakhs a month. I said, that's all very nice, but how's it going to happen? Who's going to do it? What's your team? He's got one salesperson, and he wants that one salesperson to go from 1.5 lakhs to 5.5 lakhs. I said, you're living in a dream world. As a mentor, I sometimes tell things straight in the face, and I think that sometimes hurts, but sometimes it also wakes them up, right? And I said, look, define your sales team in such a way that you will cover your market in such a way that you are building your pipeline, you have a branding and marketing support to generate inquiries so that your sales team can go and close it. I've spent 30 years in sales and marketing. So we understand that sales does not happen by accident. Sales is the end result, right? Acceleration does not happen by accident. And quite often, because the business is struggling, you tend to compromise on salaries, you tend to compromise on incentives, you tend to compromise on the very basic requirements of getting your team to be operating at full efficiency, right? They're operating at 50% efficiency, they're not being properly tracked, they're not being properly incentivized, and stuff like that. So I think each of these are important elements that defining an accelerated vision is very easy. Achieving it requires these basic elements to come in. And people are the heart of every business success, right? We call ourselves HRPros because at the end of the day, people are there in every part. The right people at the right place at the right time, the right kind of motivation. Then you get your business. Yeah?
Can I add a sentence here?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I have also seen that in a lot of organizations, there are more people than that is required.
Maybe. So that's optimizing. No? Define your organization structure in line with what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
Restructuring, sometimes you need to restructure the business in line with the revised vision. Right? And I think a lot of the organizations which we have worked with, we've actually done that. Sometimes you cut down, sometimes you add, sometimes it's like a jigsaw puzzle that has to fall into place, aligned to the business goals. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the other extreme also that happens is that if you're a solopreneur or if you're just two people team, is that solopreneur does everything, right? So there is no structure or both the partners do everything. There is no role definition. That's where we're talking about the next piece. which is about the people piece of it, right? But before you start defining your people, I think one thing for us to ask ourselves is what is the kind of customer experience that you want to actually deliver? If you start with that, and then you look at, can my existing team, whether it's just me or my 5 employees or 50 employees, can they actually deliver that kind of customer experience that I'm planning to do? How can I actually become a trusted vendor and a true partner for our customers? To do that, what kind of people do I need, right? And look at, do I need, not just in terms of hiring them, but also how do I train them? How do I sustain them in a manner that is going to deliver my vision of customer experience and partnership with customers? Define the roles and responsibilities. I think this is something which is very, very common. I've seen, especially with the smaller organization, the HR the HR responsibilities is given to a junior or an intern or an admin person. So it's limited to payroll, manage payroll as such, and given a target and say how just go out there and achieve it. But what we are looking at is a more structured approach to your people, because people, like CK was saying, people is most important. And when you talk to any organization, they have only 3 problems: people, people, and people. So you have to be very clear about what is your people strategy going to be. And that is why if you look at it, going back to what HRPros is offering also, okay, if you go back to it, within your organization, look at what is your talent acquisition strategy. How are you going to acquire talent? I think the word keyword is talent, and not just hiring for people because they are easy. They have a lower salary expectation when you're hiring them. That's not the talent that you require to drive your vision, your goals, your marketing strategies, your channel market coverage strategies, your product strategies, all of these. What do you require the people for? So identify those gaps. Existing team, what is the gap? How can you train them? How can you improve on them? Okay, do they need external training? Do they need coaching and mentoring within your organization? What are your HR systems that you've got into place? What are your people practices that you've got into place? Do you need technology in HR? Do you to drive HR, or to enable your teams? If it's a production team, do you need technology there? If it is your sales team, do you need technology to empower them, right? So look at the whole picture. So your people picture, so you may be getting, doing very well in identifying your marketing strategies, your product strategies, your customer strategies. But if you don't have the people to do this, your entire work till now will be nullified.
See, today, I think most industries are facing a challenge of attracting talent and retaining talent, right? But in the SME sector and the entrepreneur segment, in the last 12 years, I've seen 2 kinds of entrepreneurs. One kind of entrepreneur, however small they are, right? They are never able to retain people. People keep on leaving. The other category of SMEs and entrepreneurs are where people never leave them. Right? And it is not to do with the salary that is being paid. It's not to do only with that. It's about the culture of that organization. It's the way they are treated. Organizations with 30, 40, 50% attrition, that organization I spoke about that was doing 2 crores a month after 20 years, right, had 40% attrition when we started. I said, how are you going to grow your business? With every few months, you're going to get new people coming to the system. By the time they get trained, by the time they get effective, you've lost another 3 months. Out of 12 calendar months of the year, you're actually getting business only for 6 calendar months because you're constantly hiring, firing, training, hiring, firing, training, right? That's all you're doing because you're paying so little that your employees don't want to stay with you. You're treating them shabbily, they don't want to stay with you. So a critical success factor for any entrepreneur, irrespective of size, is your people strategy in terms of, do people like to work in your company or they are just working in a company till they get the next job, right? And if you don't get the answer to that, acceleration will not happen. You may have the best product strategy, you may have the best market coverage strategy, but without the people to execute it, you're going to fall flat, right? a very critical element, which often gets compromised because, oh, we are not doing well, so we can't pay. I can only pay 15,000 rupees salary. I can only pay 20,000 rupees salary. That's all you'll get. Right? Don't expect then to get the kind of output that you expect from that 20,000 rupee person. Right? So those are things that I think we talked about reinventing. Relook at your mindset about, if I want to grow my business, which is why you're here in this session today, what are those one or two takeaways that I have to do differently? No choice. Like Neetu asked in the beginning, what will I start doing? What will I stop doing? And what will I continue doing? I think wherever we've come so far, if you can define that itself, I think that itself would be a good takeaway from the session so far. Yeah.
So do we have any questions on the organization and the people piece?
Whatever Mr. CK said, there's a similar challenges we have. Okay, but we do not say that it is paying less. We pay as per the industry standard in the manufacturing. But most of the time, especially on the middle management, people often try to change that. They are there for 6 months, 1 year, and by the time they are okay with the job, they try to go, if there is somewhere jump of 10,000, 15,000 salary. So that's a major challenge.
They won't. In fact, my experience, I'm just talking about, because I've worked with more than 60, 70 entrepreneurs now in the last 10, 12 years, right? My experience is that when you start involving those people in the decision making, you start empowering those people, you start involving them in the business reviews, you start making them feel that you are an important part of the company. You take care of them during festivals, you take care of their urgent financial requirements. They will not leave. They will not leave. I've had examples where mid-level managers are being paid 5 lakhs a year. Right? At 5 lakhs a year, they will not stay. That same organization today, which is doing 5 crores a month, is paying middle-level managers 10 to 12 lakhs a year. They've had to revise their pay scales in such a way that those people would be happy being in that organization and growing with that organization. So I think, like I said, we have to see what is affordable, what makes business sense to you, but also makes it easy for the employees to want to work in your organization. There will always be opportunities outside. Right? There'll always be opportunities out. Just today, I met a guy from Mandovi Motors. He had come to deliver a car, and I asked him 3 years back. I dealt with him Mandovi Motors in Bangalore. I just asked him, how long have you been at Mandovi Motors? And he said 12 years. And my first question to him, what made you stay for 12 years? He said, I had no reason to leave. I had no reason to look out. Not that he will not get opportunities outside. The auto industry is booming, right? Just that he felt comfortable in that place. He felt that he was respected as an employee. He was given the right kind of value. So I think HRPros, I think that is where the strength is, that we all come with an HR background. So building culture, building the right incentive structure, building the right training, all of them are so important for keeping people. It's not just about salary. It's not just about salary. I think I'm talking from experience that I've seen multiple entrepreneurs, right? It's not one-off case here and there. We could move on. In fact, Neetu, I think in the interest of time, let's move on. We'll take on the questions in the.
Sure. Okay. So in fact, if people are leaving your organization continuously, it's a red flag.
It's a red flag. Yeah.
It's a red flag. We need to something is wrong. That's definitely something you need to look in.
Okay.
Okay. So let me just get this back.
How's the energy level? We're coming to the last part. Don't worry. The idea is we are trying to share as much as we could in the limited time available. We could go on for hours, right? But I think coming to the last part, I think of the session is now we've spoken about all the elements. We've spoken about all the elements, and a lot of entrepreneurs do not have a business plan. You ask them, do you have a business plan? They'll fish out an Excel sheet. An Excel sheet will have 10,000 figures in it. And Excel sheets are dynamic documents, lovely documents. You just change one formula and the growth goes to 40%. You change another formula, it comes back to 20%. And a lot of the business planning is on Excel sheets. Okay, last year I did 10 crores, or last year I did 1 crore. This year I want 50% growth. Everybody wants 50% growth. Nobody's saying how it's going to happen. Right? So sometimes business planning is more than an Excel sheet. Right? 30, 40, 80% growth is possible. Just because you want it, it's not going to happen. What are you going to do to make it happen? What are those strategies? What are those actions? What are those changes in your product or pricing or market coverage or channel or marketing or branding or people? Unless all those elements come together, right? A business plan will only be a document on paper. right? Identify the investments, what investments you require in terms of manpower, what investments you need on marketing and branding, what other investments you need to make, because without investing, how do you grow your business, right? So we could have a lot of scenarios, like I gave the example of the guy from 1.5 lakhs a month wants to go to 5 lakhs. As if you're living in some dream world, right? If you want me to help you, let's work on a business plan, right? I said 5 lakhs can happen, but 5 lakhs will happen in the next 12 to 15 months. But for that, these three things have to happen. Are you prepared for that? Are you prepared to invest that kind of money? The answer is no. I said that 5 lakhs will not happen. Quite often, nobody challenges the entrepreneur. There's nobody to challenge the entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur is quite a lonely journey, right? Who is there to push them and push them back, saying that, look, I think you're talking nonsense, right? Or what, you're living in some other world. Okay? Let's move on, right? So I think business planning is really a culmination of all that we've discussed today. If you like, you could take a picture of this particular slide, because as an entrepreneur, whether you're doing a 20 lakh business or a 50 lakh business or a 5 crore business or a 100 crore business, these fundamentals remain the same. The business plan is a culmination of product strategy, your competition strategy, your market coverage strategy, your brand and marketing strategy, your organization structure, and people, right? All that put together is what is going to help you to get to the business plan that you want to get to, right? So if you're talking about the business plan for 2022 or for the next 12 months that you want to decide, right? It's not going to happen without all these elements in place. Any one of these elements is weak. It's like a foundation for a building. The building is going to crumble sometime, right? So just keep this in mind. This is an important slide, building on what Neetu had covered in the beginning. We could move to the next one. A lot of businesses I see as entrepreneurs are too heavily focused on revenue. I want to get billing. I want to get billing. I want to get sales. I want to get sales. I want to get sales. In the process, quite often the sales might happen, not the way you want it, but you compromise on your pricing, you compromise on your margins, you start compromising just to get that big customer on your logo or logo on your thing. You start actually losing on deals, right? So one of the things that we always recommend to entrepreneurs is whatever level you are, whatever stage you are in business to make profit. Profit is not a dirty word. You are in the business to make profit, not just to do service, right? And if you don't make profit, how are you going to invest in product? How are you going to invest in sales team? How are you going to invest in marketing? How are you going to hire the right people? How are you going to fund your growth, right? So that 20 crore company was not even looking at profitability. Every month I said, how much profit did you make last month? Or we'll check with our accountant. I said, is the accountant running your business or you're running your business? Right? Then they started getting that monthly thing. Yeah, you can move to the next slide. So focusing both on top line and bottom line is very vital, not just, right? The other thing is, some of you, I think, put this comment on the WhatsApp group that I may have a strategy, but I don't have a structure. I don't have a structure. So this is the example of that manufacturing company I spoke about, where they clearly redefine their vision. And for those vision to happen, what are the business goals that they would need to address? This is a slightly older document, but I'm just giving it as an example. They realized that without improving their customer experience, inquiry management, project management, I think there was a question on project management, ensuring conversions, without having a business goal around product strategy, without having a business goal around employee experience and work culture, without having a business goal around profitable revenue growth, right? With a clear set of team members focusing on each one of them, they were not going to achieve their overall business goal, nor were they going to achieve their vision, right? So this is where a structure comes into play, that you have a business plan, you know that I need to achieve so much revenue this month or this quarter. I have a review system in place. I have a review with the team members as to how are they performing against that particular business plan. If they're not performing well, where are they getting stuck? What support they require? So I mentioned this in the WhatsApp group. I think, entrepreneur mindset is very creative, very, dreamy. But when you combine it with the best practices from a corporate, so we come from a corporate. So when you bring the corporate structure of planning, execution, reviews, clear accountability, clear motivation of team members, right culture, right mindset, right, your chances of business acceleration are substantially higher. 80% chances as against maybe 30-40% chances. This is again a live example of a document done for an SME. This is not a corporate document. SMEs are adopting these kind of documents very well because they're seeing the value out of it, right? We could move on, yeah. So basically, I think in a way, we've covered everything that we had to cover. The business plan was the last element, which brought together all the areas of vision, planning, product strategy, competition, market coverage strategy, marketing and branding, personal branding, the people, organization, and then finally the business planning. So business planning is a culmination of that. So if you are talking of accelerating your business by 30%, 40%, 50%, 100% of the next 2 years, very much possible. Enough examples of people who actually done it, right? Pandemic or no pandemic, they've still grown significantly because when the pandemic happened, they started looking inwards. What can we do differently? And I think that is where the innovative mindset and reinvention mindset that, okay, I'm getting stuck here. Can I do something differently, right? So this is really, I would say, the culmination of this today's session, right? This is the second session that we are actually doing as a HRPros community for, like a knowledge share. We talked about knowledge share for business acceleration. We are also in the process of identifying many more such knowledge share sessions, maybe one every month on different topics by different experts. And so we would definitely urge you to stay connected with us, right? Many of the links are given here, the LinkedIn link of HRPros, the YouTube channel of HRPros, contact email IDs of Neetu and myself. So since you've taken the trouble to come here, we want you to stay connected with us because, end of the day, I'm sure a lot of your questions have been answered. Also, a lot of your questions have not been answered, right? And we can continue the engagement beyond that in the WhatsApp group. I think all these links have also been put on the chat. So if any of you would like to copy the links, which you can refer to later and join in, please copy those links from the chat as of now, so that then we could continue the engagement on various channels of HRPros. Yeah. So we are through with the session so far. We are 5 minutes ahead of time. So we now leave it down to, let's hear from some of you in terms of questions, or if some of you would like to share your takeaways from today's session, any takeaways that you've noted down that you think, yeah, I really had not thought about this, or I'd like to do this for my business. I'd love to hear from some of you in terms of your takeaways from today's session, or any feedback on today's session, so that we could continuously try and improve our programs going forward.
CK, just before that, just one second. I think we'll just do this announcement. For those of you who are interested, HRPros, we meet on the last Saturday physically at Bangalore. So those of you are interested, on the chat, we are inviting you. There's an invitation. You can come and join us this Saturday, coming Saturday on 27th of August. We catch up for a breakfast at 7:30 a.m. So you are invited to come join us, see what we are doing over there. What are we doing within? How do we going about doing the transformation for both business and people, right? So the link will be there in the chat on how to join us on the 27th. Okay, and with that, we'll go back to the
sharing, and I think one is questions. Questions, I would urge you to continue asking it on the WhatsApp group. I'd much rather focus on the next 5-10 minutes on your takeaways. If anybody would like to share anything that you liked about the session that struck you as something, I can actually go and apply this in my business, right? To us, that will be the biggest give. It's not about what we shared; it's about what you took away and what you think you can apply in your business. So I'd love to hear from any one of you who wants to share. Any one of you.
Hi, Avnish here.
Yeah, Avnish.
Thank you, CK and Neetu, for wonderful session. It was more than first when it came webinar, so it was like, oh, it would be some webinar,
one more webinar,
one more webinar, and where we listen and go. And then after that, there is nothing on that. But good efforts from both of you. You have really touched upon especially on MSME industry and day-to-day challenges what we face. And you took the example which is more practical also. So that's really this thing we like it. Yes, I have 2-3 areas of concerns which definitely I would like to get in touch in WhatsApp group and get a resolve. More on apart from those questions, I would like to hear you from manpower related and on the training. So I'll get connected on the WhatsApp and
continue on the WhatsApp group. See, the reason why we didn't want this to be another webinar and we created the WhatsApp group so that our dialogue can continue. Right.
Okay.
Quite often after webinar, everybody goes back into their own world, and that's the end of it. Right. We wanted that to be also different this time, so that there's a continued engagement. At least for 2 weeks, we thought we'll keep the WhatsApp group, alive. And then those who want to leave earlier are welcome to leave earlier. Those who want to continue can continue for those 2 weeks. Yeah. Thank you, Avnish.
Thank you.
Avnish, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Annie here. Thank you so much for the session. And like Mr. Avnish said, we'll also be looking into a lot of things that you have talked about and probably restructure many things regarding the organization. And so we'll be keeping in touch through the WhatsApp group for more inputs. So thank you for the wonderful session.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome.
Can I?
Yeah, please.
Just before, I want one question that is, what is that one thing which you're taking back from this session, which you, like CK said, what you've written down? If you could talk about that, we would love to hear that.
Yeah, that and some feedback both.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Neetu, Cherin, and the team. There's one thing that I made a note here is do something different from what you were doing so far. And
that's a very general one. What are you going to do differently?
I beg your pardon?
What are you going to do differently?
Well, I'm going to give a big thought about this. And I was just, as you were discussing, there are a lot of things was running in my mind, right from the way, how should I start marketing my product, in what are different platforms that I could use to market. And there are a whole lot of it. I took few pictures as well, which I'll have to relook at it because there are a lot of information that you shared, which was very helpful. And once I relook, I would have a lot of things to learn from this program. It was fantastic, and I'm thankful to you all. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks for participating. Yeah.
Thanks, Sunil.
So, Mako, Manoj, Maniket, what was your one takeaway? Since you asked the question, I'm asking the question back to you.
So my takeaway was it's all about the GSA, what you're talking about. So in fact, I want to see if I can make the GSAs to GSAM. So where we're talking about matrix for measurement to be added.
The whole strategy, action, measurement.
Correct.
All four. Wonderful.
Hi.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is Ashima. My takeaway would be that I've not thought about my geography as of now. So I probably start looking into my geography in terms of marketing, and that's a thought-provoking for me because I feel that I'm not getting my focus on my services. So that's one thing. And thank you, Neetu, for introducing me to HRPros in this webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We also spoke about structure in the WhatsApp group. We mentioned about structure.
Yes,
so I think that's the other thing that you could also use in terms.
Yes. I mean, there are a lot of things that I've been wanting to do it, but I've not been able to. So I need to start looking for it. So now that's it. Yes.
Thank you for that.
The takeaway for this thing, which I must say, like last, you say usually for the business planning, we do it in Excel sheets. This is my plan, and that is what we do it normally. Next year, okay, with the formula 15% growth. After that, we have to have this, and next 5 years is my this planning. So that's the biggest mistake which we do it. definitely whatever you have told about the detail on, SWOT analysis, on the detail on global or product strategy. So if we go into detail of that rather than only in Excel sheet, that will really help that.
Wonderful.
You're
Pat,
right
would you like
about
to take one class photograph before people sign off?
And there are Annie has written something on the chat group also.
Yeah, I would request all of you to put your videos on so that we just take one class photo, one for the record before we wind up, and we can keep it open for another 5-10 minutes for those who want to share feedback or any comments. You can continue asking questions, so we'll continue answering the questions while the photographs are going on. So we can multitask. Somebody else is taking the picture, I'm talking, so it's okay. Please do ask questions. I mean, any observations, any takeaways, or any feedback. I think we'll be more than happy to hear that, because all of you have taken the trouble to join in on a Saturday evening. So it's only fair that we know that it was a Saturday evening well spent for you. Yeah.
So Murthy here, how are you?
Yes, good. Thank you, Murthy.
Yeah. Sir, actually one big takeaway for me is one is HRPros. The name says actually we only look at the HR perspective. I think what has come out today is we look at the business overall and also the functions of the businesses also. Yeah. I think it's a very, very good thing. What I'm saying is in terms of, we're talking about business expansion across geographies, digital marketing, penning the problem. So every business house will have one of the hand problem. I think that's a big takeaway. What I really.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to add? Who's left? Harpreet has been quiet.
Yeah. Hi, sir, and hi, ma'am. So actually, I started my solopreneur journey since past 5 years, and I'm working as a baker and a cake artist, and I'm basically a homepreneur. It's been 5 years for me, and the moment I hit my 5th year, there is a desire in the mind to upscale the whole thing. Exactly. So, of course, my first takeaway, which was very relatable to what I have learned from this session today, was so being a solopreneur, we end up doing everything on our own. So this is how, of course, I had been trying to collaborate in between, but of course, I have a corporate experience of a decade working with healthcare organizations, and while when we have to collaborate with people, what is we can, I mean, there is no choice of making a comparison and choices between it becomes very difficult being a solopreneur. Taking those decisions is pretty difficult. So now, especially when there's a desire to switch from being a solopreneur to an entrepreneur, the first thing that comes into mind is possibly I need to have a co-founder with the similar thoughts, with the similar desires. But that again becomes a pretty, huge question mark, that how can that happen? So that is something which is definitely there. But at the same time, this whole session was very, very insightful, as mentioned by the other members also, that it totally talked about the complete business thing, not just the HR requirements. So, what should be my, first step to move ahead, sir?
Are you part of any networks?
I am. I in fact started being part of my networks out here, in local regions, few of the moms networking groups and few of business networking groups as well. So that is
the reason
how
the reason I'm asking is because I know 2 people in Bangalore who are into baking and caking, and they're doing extremely well thanks to excellent networking. Extremely well. They are solopreneurs. They don't have co-founders, but doing extremely well because they've cultivated the network collaboration, like Neetu mentioned. So sometimes being a solopreneur is also not bad, right? It's about how do you reach out to your target segment. Finally, it's about
exactly, sir. What caught my attention to come and attend today's session was the word when it talks about acceleration. So again, the understanding says that a single person can't grow or accelerate to that extent. So that is what, like makes me think of taking a step ahead and make the change. And yes, of course, the biggest takeaway from today's session is like, stop doing what we had been doing since ever and have to make the change in the whole process.
Also, Harpreet,
I think that's good.
Also, Harpreet, there are certain businesses now which are very referable. And if you're in the baking business, it's a very referable business. What you need to do is make that referral conscious referral. It's not like referral by fluke, but a proactive referral program. Think through that and can give you a lot more ideas.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else? Ramesh has been quiet. Chari has been quiet.
Been watching all along, I sense things are no different. All I can say.
Great.
So I was saying the cards was a new concept for me.
Play your cards right, yeah.
The good takeaway, especially on the personal brand, and as Neetu was mentioning, how do you do it and create credibility where you're not in constant contact with somebody, and how do you then? So that's something to think about and take away in terms of how you want to go about doing that.
That's great.
Thank you. I think we're sort of done. Anything else, Pads, that you want to cover
Pads,
today?
Reena also had not, was she there? Reena? Did she share something?
Before that, Annie had message, Annie Jacob.
Okay.
Said, thank you for the informative session. My takeaway has been to be able to define your customer experience the way you want to be known is a great starting point. She says that's her takeaway. I don't think she's online. She would have logged off. That's fantastic capture. And otherwise, I think we've covered. Session is complete. We can call it a great day with a fantastic.
So, I mean, I'd like to thank all the guests who joined in. I think thank you so much for taking time and joining us on Saturday evening. Please, if you're not part of the WhatsApp group, please join the WhatsApp group, right? And if once you've registered, you would have got the link for the WhatsApp as well. So if you've not clicked on the link, you can click it and join. At least it'll give you an opportunity for the next 2 weeks to stay connected with us, right? And answer those small queries or certainly light bulb moments. I never thought about this that day, but now this idea has come to my mind. Does it work or not work? Kind of stuff. Like Sunil mentioned, right? You've got lots of things going on now. You'll have to channelize it, right? What are the 2 or 3 things I want to do differently in the next 3 or 4 months or 5 months? Yeah. So
also,
thanks to all the guests.
There is also the on the YouTube channel, you will get a recording of this. So you did not have to take pictures. You can go back and refer to that. I'm sure, like I said, we did share a lot of information. So we wanted to make sure that you have access to it later on also.
Yeah, you can see it at your pace on the YouTube, video, so that if it was too rushed when we were sharing, you can
I think
look at it.
Can they post the YouTube link here again?
Sorry?
Yeah.
I said you can see it on slow motion.
Slow motion, yeah. Digested slowly.
Selena has raised her hand. Before that, Neetu, you were saying
just
something.
To acknowledge, I'll post the YouTube link again. Thank you, CK and Neetu. A lot of things I could reflect, and a couple of things which I also want to acknowledge is about empowering the team. We said engage and empower the team, and that they would do or walk the talk as to what we want to do. That's one, and that's how we'll be able to get that customer experience, and it's every day evolving on that. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Selena. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. All good
things. Thanks, Chari. Thanks, Chari, for joining in.
Neetu, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Chari.
Thanks, thanks, Ashima.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you, Chari.
Thanks, Ashima. Thanks for dropping in. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.
Panel and the support team stays back. That's